Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olsen.
Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olsen,
or AKA the CD collector. You are like the Encyclopedia Britannica of CDs.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I don't know. Did we talk about this on the air? I can't remember last week.
24,000 estimated CDs.
Yeah, and they've been sitting. I've really only had about 1,000 at my house now for the last several years.
Yeah.
Because, space. And I had plenty of storage capability at my parents' house where my office was, even though I didn't really use it as an office very often and haven't for a while. But it was a great place to store 20,000 CDs.
What does 20,000 CDs look like physically? I mean, I'm having a hard time mentally gathering a picture.
All right, picture this. Two bedrooms, two good-sized, medium-sized bedrooms with shelving, floor to ceiling, all the way around all the walls, both rooms, and another row of two more shelves in the middle of the room.
Holy crap. That is more than a lot of radio stations have.
Well, these days, I'm sure it's more than any radio station.
Yeah, now it's all automated. I remember when they would ship after the whole MP3 revolution came, because all the stations had to buy their radio stuff from ASCAP BMI, right? That's how you got your music, was you had to order it through them, which is of course, everyone knows is the royalty house that gets paid and pays the artist when you buy them. They used to ship in, the UPS would bring a semi to the station and literally unload probably 5,000-6,000 CDs, right? Now, the ASCAP BMI rep shows up, hands you basically a plain deck of cards, that's how big this hard drive is, with all that on there.
I know.
Well, there's your music. Whoa.
It's depressing.
So it's all there.
The efficiency, the space saving, I get it. It makes all the sense in the world. I was just thinking, when we went to Australia, when we went to Sydney for the 2000 Olympics, I literally carried a box of CDs, probably, 50 CDs, in my backpack along with me on the trip.
And a CD player, of course.
And a CD player, of course. Imagine if you saw someone hauling around that these days, you would think they were
Do
insane.
you remember the boom boxes, man? Or they used to call them the ghetto blasters, right? Back in the day.
Of course.
Remember those things?
I still have them.
Do you really? Wow, I remember.
yeah.
I remember a buddy of mine had a giant. He called it the ghetto blaster, and it
Sure.
was just this huge hulking thing with one little tape deck on it. The rest of it was just speakers and a radio. That thing, he'd put it on his shoulder. That thing had to weigh 70 pounds. Walking around, like, hey, I'm bad. Look at me, my ghetto blaster. Now,
Yeah. And then it got to the point where you could get them with detachable speakers.
Yes.
So then you couldn't. So then, I mean, what is that? Is that
is
is
that a
boom
home
box?
stereo,
Is
boom box?
that
What is that?
Portable? Is that a portable, a personal stereo system? I don't know. I remember getting my son just that. A really big, glorified boombox, basically. But it had a CD player, it had a cassette player, it had radio, of course, all that. For his room, that was his stereo.
Well,
And
now...
it's not that long ago, he's not that old, he's
now,
30.
I got a smartphone with 2,000 songs on it.
I know. I
You
I
know?
am not arguing about the efficiency of
It
it
is
all. And if
just-
we're traveling,
I
absolutely.
miss it, though. I miss going to the store on the release date of your favorite artist and getting that CD or album, whatever. Some people tapes, back in those days as well.
The physical entity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You bought it.
I
You got
agree.
home. You poured over the liner notes. You listened. You read the lyrics. Some of them came with lyrics in them, and you really were just immersed into that album.
Sure, the artwork, the
Yeah,
liner notes,
yeah,
the information. That's how I knew from having all those records and reading records and CDs and reading them assiduously. That's how I knew how to get started when we were working on the encyclopedia of
Well,
record
exactly.
producers.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
fascinated with those names. Who are those people?
Yeah,
I'd like
somebody,
to get to know them.
Exactly. And I remember the first time I bought Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl. EP vinyl. Yeah, I mean the big vinyl 35s or whatever they were. I can't remember anymore. But I remember the artwork and the liner notes and the band and all that stuff. Now you download MP3 and it's so cold and clinical and there it is. And there's no feeling of connection anymore to the band.
Ownership.
Yes.
See, that's the other thing. I'm not sure what that means. Is that a reflection on my personality that I would rather own something than feel like I'm borrowing it?
True.
I get the value of streaming. I get the value of these services where, you basically have access to anything, that you want. You have access to literally millions or at least hundreds of thousands of songs.
You can't bring an MP3 for the Rolling Stones to sign.
Exactly.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You can't just say, I got your song. What you got to do? Have them sign your phone? No. You had them sign the album.
I think if you own something physically, it's different. It is psychologically, it is emotionally, even ontologically, to use a philosophical term, different from simply having access to it. Think about that. We can have access to something but not own it. And
yes.
There's a difference there.
You don't truly own it because once you delete it, it's gone. It's not like you have to physically walk into the trash and throw it away and then have second thoughts later and dig it out.
If you
once
own
you delete it,
it's like there's something at stake. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's not that easily given up.
Exactly.
I
It's
feel
part
the
of
same
you.
way.
It's part of you.
Yes, it's
part
your collection.
of your personality.
Exactly. I'm the same way with movies and books, stuff like that. I would much rather get a physical copy of a book than a PDF, personally.
Absolutely. Me too. Absolutely.
Read it. Like we got, speaking of that, we have a great show on tap tonight for everyone. Just in case we didn't forget to mention this, we're talking Paranormal Great Lakes. We're going to have Charlie Cassady on, Jr., and he wrote the great new book, Paranormal Great Lakes. And that is all about, our neck of the woods, Eric. See, you live on Lake Michigan. Or you are Erie, never mind, Lake Erie, and I'm on Lake Superior, so that is right. We're spanning the Great Lakes, you and I. We're right there. We're right there, and a whole bunch of great stories about the Great Lakes. And it was creepy, man. There's a lot of creepy stories about the Great Lakes that I read some I didn't even know, and I kind of consider myself a bit of a Great Lakes historian. because I did have a relative that did die in the Edmund Fitzgerald. And so I kind of got to know about the lore and what they've had seen on the Great Lakes and my own encounters on the Great Lakes. So it'll be interesting to talk with him, and that'll, of course, be the top of next hour. Don't miss that. That'll be a lot of fun. But I got a couple bits of news for you, man. Number one, I broke down and I got myself one of those, a Fitbit, they call it.
Yeah.
And you wear it. It's a wearable. Okay.
Sure.
And this thing keeps track of your steps and your this and that and other thing. I wish I didn't even know. Ignorance is flipping bliss, man. Before you didn't know your blood pressure was high, neither did you care. Now it goes, all the bells and whistles go, your blood pressure is high. It's like having a nanny with you going, hey, settle down over there. You're going to die. See, I do an hour now on the treadmill every day. I recently bumped it up from a half hour to an hour, Well, mainly because I got sick of my doctor yelling at me. So, it's easier just to give in, to the nagging than to keep defying. So I've been doing that, but yeah, I'm feeling better, a lot more energy, the normal things that happen with regular exercise. Okay, I got it. But this Fitbit, man, it's kind of weird wearing something that's yelling at you constantly.
I know
it's like wearing my
example of the digital age.
It's like wearing my wife on my wrist.
Well, it's also we're there. It's not like it's a step closer with the wearable computer because it's literally a small computer.
It is. It links right up to your smartphone. So not only does it yell at you about everything, but it lets you know who wants to talk to you, no matter where you are. Well,
you know how I feel about my smartphone.
Oh, yeah, you love them. You're a smart... No, you hate them.
I don't use it as such.
No, you don't. You don't. And another big piece of news, do you remember when the phone service, Tracfone, was being sued? Do you remember when that big class action suit was going down? Because at the time, they offered unlimited data. Unlimited text and unlimited talk. I don't know if you remember those days.
I don't know that one. Is that regional? Well, is it a regional carrier?
It's a national carrier. It was one of those pay-as-you-go models.
Okay.
And that's actually, I do that to this day. I actually am a Straight Talk customer. I enjoy Straight Talk because we were paying for 2 lines $150, $200, can't remember what it was, a month. And they can give you unlimited everything for $45. And my wife is a bigwig at Walmart, so, we get a discount. Well, anyhow, that being said, I used to have one of these track phones. And I bought into the whole unlimited craze. Oh, unlimited everything. Oh, my God, I can get rid of you, AT&T. I hate you. Psh, throw it in the garbage. Well, next thing you know, they're shutting off everyone's internet when they said it was unlimited, right? And so there's a big class action suit that happens a couple years ago. And I finally settled. I go to the mailbox, and there's this letter that says, settlement check enclosed. Oh, my God, Eric, my life is changing. I also felt like Daddy Warbucks, man. I was getting ready to go find a redheaded daughter.
You were rolling
It's a hard knocks life for us. It's I was getting ready to go get my, I'm already bald. So, hey, all I need was a redheaded kid. I would have had him made.
Right.
So I get the check, right? I run up to my bedroom in the secrecy of my bedroom, lock the door behind me, get under the covers with a flashlight, open this. Is it millions? Is it thousands? What is it? $7.54. $7.54. That's all I'm worth to these people.
Wow.
$7.54.
That seems like not a whole lot for them to pay for violating.
No, I felt even worse. I felt not only violated, but now insulted after the fact.
Exactly.
Just
how
not right.
Undervalued you were.
Exactly. I was undervalued, humiliated by these people. Humiliated. And so they actually sent a check for $7.54, saying, oh, yes, wonderful news. You have received a settlement check for less than $8. Go ahead.
I wonder how many people got them.
I don't know. I would imagine there's quite a few because, if my share of the pool is only $8, there must be hundreds of thousands of recipients of these $7 checks. There has to be because it was a big national, still is, a big national carrier. And of course, if you have questions about your settlement check, it says, give us a call. We'd like to hear from you. And what
I'm just wondering what the details, or what your amount was based on.
Well, this is what it says. I have the disappointing check in my hand right here. It says, plaintiffs in the Tracfone. I didn't even know I was really a plaintiff until just, recently. So, not like I wasn't expecting this for years. Plaintiffs in the Tracfone Unlimited Service Plan litigation class action suit, along with the Federal Trade Commission, the nation's consumer protection agency, reached a settlement with Tracfone, and with Walmart, of course, because they carry a Tracfone, that's primarily, and Net10, a whole bunch of other carriers that they serviced. Good news, you're one of the lucky recipients of a settlement check.
Wow.
I wanted to, I kind of felt like okay, I realize we got kids listening, so I'll try to keep this clean. I kind of felt like a dirty lady of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Push you off the bed and say, money is on the dresser, baby.
Right. It's such a small. I mean, you get to the point where, sure, in aggregate, when you add it all up, however many people got those checks, and I wonder if everyone basically got the same check.
Well, it was. What was it? It was over 1 million people.
Okay.
That were in on this. See, attaches payment represents your prorated share of the settlement funds that remain after the initial distribution of money was completed. I don't remember getting a first check. The second distribution of my $7 will be made next year on March 22nd. Oh, joy. I can get another $8.
I wonder if you had to be one of the actual the plaintiffs, to have actually filed
Maybe.
in order to be on that first
that would make
run.
sense, I guess. And, at the end it says sincerely. the Office of Settlement Administrators.
Oh, my.
Oh,
well,
yes,
I mean,
sincerely.
I guess
you.
it added up for them.
Yes.
If they're having to pay all those people that amount. But, you get to the point where you go, what? Why bother?
Well, yeah, it's not as bad as one time I was part of something similar, and I can't remember what it was for, and I got a nickel check. Here's your settlement money, a nickel.
I get royalties now and then on various things, and I've had them be as small as 50 cents. Like, wow.
Hey, thanks.
That cost you way more to simply send that out.
Yeah.
And the bookkeeping and the accounting, than what you're paying out. But, I mean, I guess if you're doing it, you're doing it, and the amount is secondary, right?
Well, yeah, but see, this money I thought was a life-changing event because they made it sound like it was a big dollar figure. Your
you could go to
portion of the
lunch,
settlement.
I suppose.
Well,
Maybe
I'd have to find somewhere really cheap. I mean, I can barely go to Subway. Come on, for $7.54
by yourself.
By myself. Can't bring the wife or kids or take my mom out, nothing like
yourself.
that. Not like not like Happy Days Are Here. No Daddy Warbucks for me. No Hard Knocks Life. Oh, it does continue to be a Hard Knocks Life, yes. But I can't be the Daddy Warbucks in that story, unfortunately. Now that
Think
I
of it
realize
this
I'm broke.
At least you didn't have to pay $7.
Yeah, that is true. That I didn't think of it that way. Can you imagine that? Hey, by the way, we overpaid you by $7.54.
And we want it back.
We want it back now with interest. Well, that'd be horrid.
I know.
10,000% interest.
I wonder, when you see all these commercials, especially they seem to be on the news channels in particular.
J.G. Wentworth?
All the attorneys for
oh my God! Yes, mesothelioma. Yes,
mesothelioma. Yes, there it is. You got it. Or other, various settlements where that's all they do.
Oh yeah,
is go out and chase down this money.
That's
and
all
they're
they
putting
do.
In all this money into advertising.
Life must be good if you're a contingency lawyer. Let me tell you, because you're right. They spare no expense on their commercials.
I mean, think of the money they're putting out when you see those ads, over and over and over and over on national, it's cable, but on national TV. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of money.
Or suing for a bad drug. Have you or a loved one taken this?
Bad drug.
Bad drug.
1-800.
Are you experiencing anal bleeding? Are you experiencing fatigue? Are you experiencing death? If so,
and it
call.
must be mesothelioma.
Yeah, it must be. No, those meds. Bad drug. 1-800 bad drug. I like that. And one of them actually did say anal seepage.
Oh,
it's one of the reasons to sue. Really? Are you going to run around and admit that to people? Oh, yeah, by the way, Bob, I have anal seepage. I mean, really?
I'm here at the courthouse. Which line do I get in for the anal seepage?
Yeah, exactly. I have to buy a new couch now, but, hey. Because of the seepage, but,
even new socks. Because, it's seeping.
Oh, yeah, but I actually did see that listed. And I love the commercials, right, where they have the drug, right, and it's to cure or help the symptoms of one thing, right, and then the side effects are 7 miles long.
Those commercials just... It's a bewildering combination of drive me insane and crack me up. I mean, you're right. It's like 80% of the commercial is naming the side effects, and death is almost always one of them.
Oh, always. How would you like to be the guy in that drug trial that experienced the death?
I'm the death guy.
Because I actually, when I was in college, I knew a guy that did drug studies. That's what he did for money. He would go and try these experimental drugs.
Oh, my goodness.
That poor guy, man. I really felt bad for him after a while. One day I saw him, he looked like a Smurf. He was blue.
How much did it pay? Does it pay well?
Well, evidently pretty good. I mean, the guy drives a new car and this and that and other thing. That's all he does is he's a guinea pig, at least back in those days.
Oh.
And he was a college student, so, evidently. But he comes up to me, he's as blue as a Smurf. Evidently, they gave him an experimental drug that affected the pigment of his skin.
Apparently.
Yeah, and I said, wow, man, have you been, maybe fooling around with a Smurf or something? No, damn drugs.
He's got a thing for blueberries.
Yeah, wait, you got a thing for Smurf Ed over there? What are you doing? What are you doing, Gargamel? Come on, relax.
Well, one of the girls, remember, in Willy Wonka,
yes,
in the chocolate factory, turned blue. Something to do with blueberries.
Yep. But it's just funny because I don't like taking medications if I don't have to. I'm not one of these guys that goes, hey, by the way, this isn't working quite right. Give me some meds, would you, Doc? No, I avoid them pretty much at all costs.
I'm in the middle, I mean, I take a fair amount of vitamins and supplements and herbal things. And, if I need it, I'm not opposed to taking antibiotics or whatever. But, I mean, you don't want to take things you don't have to take. And you don't want to be, especially don't want to become dependent on things that you don't have to take. Oh,
the best drug I was ever given. I had surgery on my deviant septum, as most of the listeners know. And they gave me something called Oxycontin. Oh, no. I have never orbited the moon like I did on Oxycontin. They gave me this Oxycontin, and they said, well, you may feel a little lightheaded. No, they should have said don't make any plans because you're going to be so high. you're gonna be seeing cartoon characters dancing in front of you, not on TV.
Well, you realize that's one of the absolute key players in the opioid
really?
epidemic.
Yeah, because they gave me this Oxycontin because it's severe pain. When they do that surgery, up in your nose, it's very, think about it when you get your nose even hit. It goes, oh my God, that hurt.
Oh, yes.
So they give me this
I know it well. I'll tell you a story if you'd like, but go ahead first.
They gave me this Oxycontin. They shipped me home, and I'm feeling great, man. I'm hey, how you doing? I giving no regard to I just had surgery, right? Oh, I'll help you move that. Don't worry. Even though one of the big don'ts was don't lift anything, because I wasn't feeling anything. And then when it wore off, it was not a place you wanted to be, man.
No, see, that's the problem. It feels so great to be on it, and it feels so awful to be off it. It is so easy to get hooked.
Yeah. And then a buddy of mine stops by, and he's like, "Hey, you want a beer?" Oh, that was not a good choice on my part.
No.
I didn't think one Boston Lager would really affect me. I thought, okay, cold beer actually sounds pretty good after I went through. Oh, my God. It, intensifies that beer by 10,000.
I believe it.
Next thing
I'm actually allergic to opioids, so I don't have to worry about it.
So now you have a story about orbiting Saturn, right?
Well, my story is actually about my nose. Because you were saying how painful it is.
It sucks.
Anything to do with your nose, your eyes tear up, and you get the big black eye look.
Oh, yeah.
So I was, as we've mentioned from time to time, I was a baseball player when I was a kid.
You were semi-pro.
All the way up through college.
Yeah.
And so, but when I was a kid, I think I was about 11 maybe, I moved up a league. So I was probably the youngest or among the youngest in that particular league. So I skipped up one. So I was already feeling pretty insecure and was like, whoa, everyone's bigger than me here and blah, 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 blah. So I'm in the batter's box. And this is the first time I'm facing pitchers who throw anything other than just, fastballs.
Okay.
Curves, I'm seeing change-ups, all this. So the pitcher, right-hander, I'm left-handed, batting left-handed. So he throws a curve. So it's curving into me in the left-hander's batter's box. And it's curving, and it's curving, and it's coming right at my face, and it's coming right at my face. And I turn, and I run all around the field, and then I run up the street, and then I run down the street, and then I jump into the ocean, and then I swim back, then I climb back up the hill, then I'm back in the batter's box, and it hits me right in the freaking nose.
Wow. Ugh.
Broke my nose. Oh my God, that was painful.
Oh, I bet it was. I bet it was.
And you see the stitching left a mark on my nose.
Tattooed you. That's insult to injury.
Insult to injury.
Not only did it kick your ass, but it left a mark showing you that it owns you.
Oh God, it hurts so bad. And your eyes are tearing up. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, your eyes swell too, and you get the black eyes. And as it turned out, it didn't even actually break the bone, which is higher up. It only broke the cartilage.
Oh, only, but that's still painful. All right.
Oh God, it was so painful, and man, it took weeks before I looked anything. I looked like W.C. Fields with big, swollen, bulbous red nose and black eyes. I look like I'd started my prize fighting career at 11.
You look like you took on Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson all on the same day.
So I may have exaggerated how much I ran from it, but it really did feel like it was just chasing me.
Yeah.
I'm moving away. I'm ducking down. I'm falling backwards. I'm pulling away, and it still managed to hit me right in the nose.
I have been hit in the face by sports balls before. I didn't want to say balls because that sounded horrible. Baseballs and that stuff. But one time, a guy I was in college with, he ended up going to the pros, NFL. Low level. He was like maybe fifth string or whatever quarterback. And he somehow landed a deal. I want to say he was with the Raiders for a while. And he says, hey, want to catch a football? I said, yeah, why not? Well, I was on why not? What the hell? What's wrong with a little catch? That guy threw it so hard. It was like a laser beam, man. It was there before I was. And I'm running. He says, go long. So I did. And by the time I turned my head to see where this ball was, it was in my face. Hit me right in the face.
I hate that. People don't realize how hard footballs are.
Oh, and this guy is an NFL quality quarterback.
Right.
Just laser beamed it right in there. Oh, are you okay? Start giggling. Like, you're an ass, man. He says, no, that's hilarious. Let's do it again. No.
That reminds me. I got one other little tale here. Since you got hit in the nose, hit in the face with a football from an NFL quarterback. I was covering, believe it or not, I did some sports reporting in Cleveland. I was a Cleveland-based producer for a little while for ESPN.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah, and I only did a handful of stories, and I was never on camera or anything. But so I'm setting it up, and what they do is you ask whoever they assign you to interview. You do that on camera, but they cut you out. They just show
that's
their
so
answers.
nice of them.
They just show the
that's
answers.
so
They don't
nice.
show the
Yeah, they don't show you. You're not worth enough to us.
Oh God,
We'd
that
have to
was
pay
annoying
you.
as hell. Oh my God, this is so great. I'm interviewing. So I was interviewing Kirby Puckett.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I knew Kirby.
Of course, from the Twins.
Yes,
yep.
yep.
Absolutely. This is back in the 90s, and it was at Cleveland Stadium. I'm actually on the field interviewing Kirby Puckett, right? So the interview's over. He goes off to play catch and warm up. All of a sudden, a ball comes, a baseball, just comes whizzing in and hits me right in
Bert
the
Bylevin hits you right in the face. Boom! Take that.
right in the solar plexus,
Oh.
right in the gut. I'm just bent
Oh,
over,
man.
and I look over. It's Kirby, and he's laughing. He freaking did it on purpose.
He was messing with you. Bless
Oh my
his
God,
soul.
he thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
thought I was
God.
going to puke.
Kirby. Good old Kirby. There's some good story. He was actually genuinely a good person. He did a lot for the state and stuff. But yes, he was a prankster. I do know that.
Well, he was indeed a prankster,
Yeah.
hitting me in the frickin' stomach with a
wonderful
baseball.
thing. Absolutely wonderful thing for him to do. Hey, we got to run a break. We come back. You're America's Most Haunted Headlines with Mr. Eric Olsen. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
A crazy feeling on my mind. A happy day, a different time.
Hey, you listen to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At Ace, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at Ace, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. Ace.
The helpful place.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guests or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
What's happening, hot stuff?
welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I did forget one thing, Eric. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Of course, that's Eric Olsen. I'm going squatching this weekend.
That is the coolest.
Yeah,
Tell us all about
I am
it.
going with the Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, which is an arm of the BFRO. So I'm going to go out with these guys this weekend, and I am going to go ahead and see if squatches are real. Really, this time it's a real investigation. Last time I went on, it was kind of watered down. This one I'm actually going camping for. I'm going deep in the woods, going with them. I'm going to be with them and do the tree knocking thing, see what happens. I'm actually kind of excited. And
what are your concerns about?
Well, my concerns are really a couple things. Not first, ever since we read the story about being molested by a Bigfoot, that's the back of my head. I don't know if you remember that.
There's always that.
You got Randy with the guy, and next thing you know, squeal like a pig, boy. And all that stuff happened. But mainly, I'm afraid of bears.
I think that's quite logical.
In fact, Abe Del Rio, the founder of Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, sent me pictures of recent tracks of bears in the area.
Whoa.
Saying that they're out, they're around, take precautions, that kind of stuff. So it was a cub and mother that he found the tracks of. And where the cub is, mama's not far.
Oh, yeah, that's the very dangerous right there.
They get a little agitated when you get around their babies. So, I will do my best not to become dinner for a bear.
Yeah, you don't, or even just getting sliced up. You don't want that.
Yeah. If I do, though, I'm so coming to haunt you, and then I'm going to haunt the Dinner with the Ghost guys. So I can get
you do not want to be the Revenant.
No, so I want to get a free meal out of them. So,
Oh, I think you will.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't want to be the Revenant. Oh my God.
Let's put that off.
Have you seen that movie, The Revenant?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that just a gruesome bear attack? I don't want that to be me. I do not. Well, these guys, they do take precautions. They do bring mace with them, bear spray and stuff like that to ward off any bears. So we should be all right. And everybody that listens to the show by now also knows I pack heat. I pack a gun. So, hey.
You could bring a bear exterminator along. Do they have those in Michigan?
What is a bear
Minnesota?
Exterminator?
Some exterminators go after
guy.
bugs.
Oh, okay. I can bring a little Sherpa-like guy with me.
Yeah, some exterminators go after bugs. Others go after rodents. There's got to be something to go after bears.
You follow me, okay, and you make sure
spray
no bears. You spray them down. Spray them down. Make them run away. Yeah, I
spray them with bear killer or something.
Bear killer or something. Watch, he sprays them with bacon grease.
Yeah, he'd hate that.
He sprays me first with it.
He'd start eating himself.
Yeah. Hey, here's the thing about bears. I only have to outrun one person. That's it.
You are so right.
That's it. So right. Just gotta run faster than the next guy.
Same thing with zombies.
That's right. That's right. But I do not foresee a problem with bears. But if there is, man, I'm so gone. They already know this. I'm like, you know what? Bigfoot's cool and all, but bears are not cool. I'm telling you, if I get scared, I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
I have a life to lead.
I do. But let's get back to the show here, and let's talk all things America's Most Haunted Headlines, brought to you by Mr. Eric Olsen, of course. He's reading it, and Wayward Souls. So
head to Twitter. Head to twitter.com/AMHaunted. And we're still in this temporary mode that I hope I plan to come out of by this Monday. I know I said it last week, but it's taken yet another week. Been dealing with additional medical issues with my parents and the aftermath of clearing out their entire house. And so we have a huge, massive garage sale that starts tomorrow. It's a neighborhood garage sale.
Wow.
But we will be a cornerstone of it. And poor Dawn, my wife, took off from work today, and she was pricing and sorting and going through everything to prepare for tomorrow all day long today in very high humidity and high 80s heat. It was very uncomfortable. And here I am down in the basement filing CDs in the nice cool. I'm a little chilly down
I'm a little cold. You know,
It's a little cool. I don't think I'm going to wear my tank top. I think I'm going to put on an actual short sleeve shirt.
She goes
How about
down.
you, Dawn?
She goes down there, and you look like one of those models at a wet T-shirt contest.
Shivering. Oh, and she's glaring at
You're
me.
wearing the wife beater T-shirt that's white.
Here you are in the basement, in the cool basement, eating bonbons
Exactly.
and filing CDs.
We are feet up, going, yeah, it's a hard life here. Let me tell you.
I'm out in the garage and the driveway. We have a big tent in the driveway that everything's under. That which is not in the garage, because some of it's furniture, and there's no point moving that out of the garage. So that's what's going on. So anyway, I haven't been tweeting still on my normal daily basis, still on that kind of twice a week type thing. But nonetheless, by next week, we'll be returning to normal. So check it out. Follow us. All things paranormal, spooky, and amaze-mo. All right, look at this picture. And this is one of the main reasons we tell you to go and actually look at it on a computer or your phone, for that matter, at AM Haunted, so you can see the pictures and follow the links. Look at the weird, eerie blue light coming from behind the trees and the house.
That's freakish looking.
So what is your guess as to what that is?
It's fog. And some type of fog or swamp gas that has been known to look like that. But the light source is something behind it, obvious. I'm not sure you got me. What is it?
It is electricity arcing off the lines, and it forms this very weird, eerie blue light.
And yeah, because electricity, when it arcs, will create a smoke like that. What do they call that? Freon or something? There is an actual name for that gas that's created by electricity.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'll think of it in a second. But if you click through, you not only see the picture I have on Twitter, but an even cooler, even bluer one, a similar arc flash from Montreal in 2013. The picture I'm referring to was just taken June 5th in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, right, not too far from you.
Not too far at all.
Ooh.
I mean, it's not around the corner, but...
Good thing, because you might get shocked.
Exactly. I don't like that.
No.
All right. You know how they're always finding these crazy ancient archaeological discoveries either in Europe and lately it's been South America or Mexico. They were tearing down a hotel right in the heart, downtown Mexico City, tearing down a hotel built in the 50s. They discovered a 500-year-old Aztec temple with human remains in it.
Under it? Under this hotel?
Under the hotel.
You would have thought they would have seen something while they're building it.
I guess they didn't.
You know, like, wow, why is that temple there? I don't know, Bob. Let's just keep building. Okay, let's build it in.
It is bizarre because when you see it, which, again, if you go to the actual site, go to Twitter/AMHaunted, you can see it. There's a lot going on there, and there's several other pictures if you click through, and it looks like an Aztec temple. There's no messing around.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
All right, our bud, Jeff Mudgett.
I see that.
On the show. His show is coming to History Channel. It finally will debut on July 11th. It's called American Ripper.
I'm clicking on that one right now.
And within that show, our bud, Jeff Mudgett, who's the great-great-great-grandson or something like that, of H.H. Holmes, who was actually named Mudgett. And he has a theory that H.H. Holmes was also Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I've been talking to Jeff here and there because he's going to come on the show.
Oh, yeah.
And break some... news that he's not going to break anywhere else until he talks to us about it first. So
we need to book him because that's
we
coming
do.
up.
Yes. Eric, you'll get right on that. I'm sure of it. I'm sure. One of us will get on it. One of us will get on that, and we'll get him on. We got to talk to Jeff again.
We got to get him on before the show airs.
Yep. Yes, we do. In fact, I'm posting that right now. Catch our good friend Jeff Mudgett on History Channel.
All right, so the 11th is a Tuesday.
Oh. you know.
We got to have him on the 7th.
Yeah, we'll make it happen, guys. We'll make that happen.
Alrighty.
Well, it's Thursday,
So that looks
or whether
very
it's
cool,
Wednesday.
very interesting. What was his other theory that we found more plausible? There was some other information that had
I'd have to go back and read the notes from that show or listen to that show again because it is up for download, of course. You go over and you can download it from the After Hours AM .podomatic.com site. That's where we house all of these awesome MP3s of the show, the archives. You can catch it right there. You can download it and listen to it before it comes back on, and kind of get a little taste of what to expect when he comes back on.
Good idea.
It's gonna be pretty cool, man. It's gonna be pretty cool.
It will be rollicking. All right, it had to happen. There will be a horror, essentially, version of Groundhog Day coming in October. It's called Happy Death Day. And in it, a young woman, I think she's a co-ed. It appears that she is a co-ed.
She has to be.
And she keeps reliving the day of her death, of her murder.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but she has to get out somehow. I mean, Groundhog Day was funny because it never ended. It was funny. Because he used it to his own advantage. Hopefully in this movie, she figures a way to stop her own death. I would imagine that would be the reason why she keeps reliving it. But
I would think so, too.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that one. And,
I would
who's the
agree
one
with
that
you.
makes that one? Producer of Get Out, The Purge, and The Visit. So
it's another Blumhouse.
Yeah, so we know it's not going to be M. Night Shyamalan and Ding Dong doing that one.
No.
So, no.
But producer of Get Out, The Purge,
Yeah,
The Visit,
all
on
that
and on
stuff,
and on. All the Blumhouses.
Yeah.
Happy Death Day.
It'll go
it's
straight
not a very
to-
good title. It's kind of dumb.
Well, it sounds like a straight-to-DVD title is what it sounds like to me.
It does, but they got a big website and everything, so they're pushing it. It'll be in
It's
theaters.
not as cool as Hellhole.
Well, of course not. So we mentioned on the show last week, we previewed that this 5 Nights of Fear, it's the 5th anniversary of Scream Factory. We're all cool horror DVDs, mostly Blu-rays. They go for the kind of the high end, the really high quality packaging and exclusive stuff.
Again, something you can own and hold in your hand.
Again, exactly. Something you can hold in your hand and collect, and it's yours. So in celebrating their 5th anniversary, they're running a free movie on Scream Factory TV every night this week. And tonight, which starts in just, 13 minutes?
Yeah.
Hellhole. Stripped naked, forced to submit to the ultimate experiment. Pray they don't succeed.
Yeah, that's definitely a 1970s exploitation film right there.
I love that poster.
That is pretty good looking.
And how about the Bond chicks in the bottom right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, beating each other over the head.
Very, very happy. Look, what is she drinking
I'm
from?
not sure.
Something in the L. What is coming out of that L?
I'm not sure what's coming out of that L.
Maybe she's doing a bong.
Or maybe she's smoking one. Maybe it's the chronic.
Maybe. All
devil's
then.
lettuce.
So we've been talking about what's coming up at the various Universal studios in Hollywood, Universal Resort, of course, in Orlando, and there's various other ones overseas, but those are the 2 in the U.S. So we just got the announcement that Universal Studios Hollywood will be featuring, among, of course, many other attractions, American Horror Story Roanoke.
Ooh, that'll be cool.
Very cool, very creepy, and
very creepy.
Select night every year. You notice every year they start a little bit earlier.
They do. Next thing you know, it'll be January. They'll be like, "Hey, it's January. Let's pull it out."
Year round, Halloween season has begun. It's January. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, all year long you can get the crap scared out of you.
Well, this year they've moved it up a little bit. They nudge it forward every year, and now it's September 15th. I mean, that's a full month and a half for Halloween.
That's a long time. Wow. They're really trying to cash in. And by the way, just to make you happy, I did watch Supernatural.
Oh, good. Which era?
The first season I'm starting with.
Oh, way back.
Way back. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's pretty darn good.
Better.
Well, the first season's are always kind of that building the story season anyway.
Sure.
And
Getting to know them. But I'll tell you
yeah.
what, the main difference. Well, I'd say there's two main differences. The writing gets a lot better and a lot more creative and experimental, and they become much better actors.
So they progress in their craft as the show goes. Okay.
I mean, if you sat there and watched it, which would take a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Watched all 12 seasons, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty astonishing how much they have improved over the years.
If I watched all 12 seasons, I'd probably, have one less wife. If all I did was binge on it,
long time.
I'd be there. I'd have a beard. I'd look like Jesus when I leave my living room.
It's possible.
My kids would be graduating.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would take a goodly long time. It is possible that you. Well, I'll move on from there. Anyway, Supernatural. Yes, it is really, really good, and it gets better and better and better over time. Acting gets better, but even perhaps more than the acting. I was going to say I wouldn't mind casting either of them now, Jensen or Jared, in pretty much anything.
Yeah,
I could see him in a serious drama.
Sure.
I could see him in comedies.
Sure.
I mean, they could carry it at this point. And basically, when they started, they were just kind of minor TV guys, and had been in some horror movies and whatnot. Really B or C stuff. But at this point, man, I think they're really ready. And it just shows you how much they love their fandom that they have stayed with it all these years.
Yeah, they really have.
Because they don't need the money anymore.
No, they're doing it out of love. Speaking of love and interesting, being that we're on movies and television, I saw an interview with Linda Carter.
Didn't you say that she looks really hot?
She is still hot, man. Like 60.
That's amazing.
She's 65.
Is she?
She
really?
looks like that she could go put on the Wonder Woman costume and still rock it.
Oh, I bet she could.
I'm just saying, it's amazing how good she still looks for her age.
Some of these women these days, just keep pushing the envelope. And I keep saying, I can't imagine really thinking of for example, just, pick a number out of the air.
Yeah.
30 years ago, I would have said, I can't imagine thinking of a 50-year-old woman, sexually or romantically.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it goes, 55, then 60, and now I'm at the point where I'm getting into my later 50s, and there are women out there 65 plus who look amazing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they don't just look good because, a lot of it can be makeup and from a distance and, of course, keeping yourself in shape. Yeah. But they feel young. They seem young. They're youthful. It's not just an appearance. It is strange. Actually, for me, it's extremely encouraging.
Well, it's kind of weird.
I could be young, forever.
Yeah. Well, that's true, but the last 70-year-old woman I knew sent me a $25 check on my birthday, and her couch is covered in plastic. That's my grandma. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I at my age, I'm 42, I look at 65-year-olds going, oh, really? You know what I mean? But so I get you. As you age, though, it gives you new perspective on things.
And what I'm saying is this generation that is now in that age range, in other words, the baby boomers have really pushed the envelope.
They have.
And they refuse to get, quote unquote, old, And it can be ridiculous. You don't want to see some 70-year-old, on roller skates and hot pants.
No. Although
being absurd, but
unfortunately,
I
have
act youthful and still be wise. I'll tell you what. When we were in Oregon, and one of the reasons we were there, or I guess the main reason we were there back spring break time, was my wife's father had died, and we met their next door neighbors who were very, very helpful, and they're keeping an eye on things when we're away, and they were just helping out and just giving us contacts and just being very, very nice and warm and inviting. They're both 70, and if you saw them, they could easily pass for 55, but they feel and talk and think so young, they could be 45.
Really? Well, it's all in how you feel. Mentally.
It really is, and how you think.
Exactly. My mind, I'm still 21.
My mind, I may not even be 21 yet.
It's like, oh, crap, when did I get this old?
So immature.
And how did I survive? Better question.
I don't know. Same way I did, I guess.
There's been a few drunken nights. I'm just saying.
Every now and then, like last night. No, I'm kidding. No, Monday, the freaking final game of the.
Oh, you poor!
NBA
I knew this show. Okay, when I started this show, guys, I actually have a countdown clock, and God bless you, Eric. I'm just trying to rib you a little bit. I was waiting. I purposely did not mention this in the first half hour. I was waiting for you to bring this paint up because I didn't want to be the guy to rub it in. Be like, look at that, Cleveland lost. But let's put it in perspective. Golden State Warriors have every great player on the team except for LeBron James. So they should win.
They are the most stacked team in history.
They remind me of the Redskins many years ago. What was that owner, Schneider? He went out and got every high-dollar free agent money could buy.
Or the Yankees.
Yes.
Or the Red Sox.
Exactly. And they didn't win, the Redskins. They couldn't play together. All this great talent, but what happened was too many big egos.
Right. And there's only one ball, as they say.
Yep, one ball, and I want to say they took Brad Johnson from the Vikings at that time, which was a hot quarterback, to that team. And he was our quarterback, and they took him because it was free agency year. And boy, did he suck. It was great to watch. Good for you, Brad. I'm glad that you had 12 interceptions in the first 3 games.
Well, the hope was that Kevin Durant just wouldn't fit into that well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he did. All right, before we run out of time, I love this picture of this is the real picture. This is the real thing. A 2-headed porpoise was found by a Dutch fisherman in the North Sea. Look at that thing.
Do you ever think that Siamese twins, or in this case a Siamese porpoise, do you ever get sick of being with the other one?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
It's not like you could walk out for a fresh breath of air there.
I'm going to beat you to death.
I'm going to swim away.
Head.
I'm mad at you. I'm swimming away now. Oh, crap. You're still here.
Wait. You stay there. I'm going here.
Yeah.
I said stay there.
That is actually kind of that is kind of disturbing to look at in some ways.
It is. But it lived however long and was functioning perfectly well with 2 heads.
Well, 2 heads are better than one.
Conjoined twins. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Conjoined twins. Well, unless only one head was functional.
Right. But I believe the story said that this literally was. These are conjoined twins. So there's 2.
So there's 2 independent.
2 identities.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
But they're fused. They really only have 2 heads, though.
Yeah.
The rest is one body.
Yeah. Well, my wife claims I only think with one head. So that's what she tells me all the time. So I don't know.
Yeah, those
You've heard that before.
Wives think like that.
Yeah, yes, they do. But yeah, very, very cool looking. Smithsonian again, Mag does it again. What a strange looking creature, man. Something very, very bizarre.
Very strange. And we've talked about it before, but loving, very odd. I have but very little idea what's actually going on after 6 full episodes. But I love the new Twin Peaks.
I am waiting to binge it, man.
I know you are. And that's probably not a bad way to do it because then at least it'll make sense.
Yes, exactly. That I know a lot of people that have watched these episodes individually and they've said, you know what, wait till it hits Netflix and binge it. And then it will be one cohesive stream that you
because I
keep
still
following.
Have no idea what the main plot points are.
Yeah.
But it's so visually arresting and it's so creative and the acting is really fantastic. So I mean I'm going along for the ride.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'm gonna watch it when it hits like Netflix or Amazon streaming. Do something like that. Watch it where I can sit down on a weekend and bang it out.
Yep, it's good.
Cool,
really good.
Cool.
Like
Good to hear. Good to hear.
One last bit of news.
Yeah,
Fox is returning to paranormal programming, and they are bringing in a trilogy. It's a book trilogy. It's The Passage, and it's a post-apocalyptic vampire drama.
Oh, like we don't have something similar to that.
No, we have nothing like that at all.
Oh, it was
called
zombies.
The Passage.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know about you, but vampires, I don't know. I don't know. They've never really tripped my trigger as a horror icon, unless it's Dracula. And then, of course, that's cool. But the rest of it, I could take or leave it. I think the Lost Boys ruined it for me,
Oh, you don't like the Lost Boys?
I didn't, no, I didn't mind it, but then everything after that sucked. That's what I'm saying. The Lost Boys was so...
It was kind of a peak. It was funny.
Yeah,
it was scary.
It had it all going
very
on.
Cool.
Instead, I watched one called 30 Days a Night a few years ago with Ethan Hawke. And really? Oh, this is not fun at all.
I agree. That one didn't.
So I kind of put it down, and then of course there's the ever dreaded. Some people love it, some people hate it. Interview with a Vampire, and that one, Tom Cruise, man, I just.
He was so skinny in that.
Tom
barely
Cruise,
recognizable.
Brad Pitt, I just couldn't buy it, man. I just, not one time did I buy those two as badass vampires. Not for 1 second. Central Casting should have done a better job of picking the vampires.
That was never one of my favorites either.
No. But we got to get out of here, play some Fox News. We come back, Charles Cassady's coming on. Paranormal Great Lakes is the book. You're not going to want to go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
This is a Fox News alert. A deadlocked jury at the Bill Cosby trial. I'm Lisa Brady. The judge just denying a motion for a mistrial in the Cosby case. Fox's Gernal Scott has this live.
Lisa, the denial came after the jury told the judge they could not reach a unanimous verdict on the 3 aggravated indecent assault charges Cosby faces. Judge Stephen O'Neill asked the jury to continue their discussion, but there is no guarantee they can come to a consensus. If they don't, Cosby will still face the charges and remain free on a $1 million bond. The prosecution will then have just a few months to decide if they will retry or drop the case, Lisa.
Thanks, Gernal. President Trump moments ago offering prayers again for the family of House Majority Whip Steve Scalise in critical condition after yesterday's baseball practice shooting.
There are a lot of hearts in this country, great hearts, and they're all sending their love and support to the Scalise family. And Steve, in his own way, may have brought some unity to our long-divided country.
He also again commends the Capitol Police who took down the shooter. Fox's Rachel Sutherland is live in Washington.
Lisa, congressional staffer Zach Barth says he might have died if not for the actions of the Capitol Police officers. He described what happened in vivid detail.
I see him turn his gun towards me, and it just starts popping all around me. He hits me in my leg.
Barth said he piled into a dugout with congressmen, used his phone to text for help, and prayed. The vice president stopped by the hospital to check on Congressman Scalise, and he met with Officer Crystal Greiner, also injured in the attack. The fourth victim, lobbyist Matt Micah, is still in critical condition. Lisa.
Thanks, Rachel. Earlier today, the president tweeting about a Washington Post report that he's under investigation for possible obstruction of justice in the Russia probe, calling it the single greatest witch hunt in American political history. Fair and balanced. The father of Otto Warmbier, the American college student freed by North Korea but sent home in a coma, says his son was brutalized by the regime. His wife staying at their son's bedside but sending a message.
She wanted me to tell you that she knows that Otto is a fighter, and she and I firmly believe that he fought to stay alive through the worst that the North Koreans could put him through in order to return to the family and community he loves.
They found out this week Otto's been in a coma for more than a year. An explosion in China at the gate of a kindergarten, killing at least 7 people, wounding dozens.
Passers-by try to help as dozens of adults and children lie on the ground, dead or injured. The blast occurring as parents collected their children from the kindergarten in Fengshan, eastern China. There's no word if it was intentional, one eyewitness quoted saying a gas cylinder exploded at a roadside food store. Kindergartens in China have often been targets of deadly attacks, including by people bearing grudges. In 2010, a spate of attacks left almost 20 children dead and prompted schools to beef up security. In the Asia Bureau, Cairo, Alistair Wanklin, Fox News.
Polygamous sect leader Lyle Jeffs back in custody after nearly a year on the run. The FBI announcing today he was captured last night in South Dakota. Jeffs was awaiting trial on fraud charges in a multi-million-dollar food stamp scheme. When he escaped from home confinement, 9 of the other 10 people charged took plea deals while he was a fugitive. Nike cutting more than 1,000 jobs, 2% of its workforce, partly to better accommodate online shoppers.
Nike CEO Mark Parker tells the Wall Street Journal the company's getting even more aggressive in its digital marketplace. The company will reduce styles by 25%, and Nike will work on getting products into stores more quickly.
Fox's Ginny Cosola. Wall Street right now, stocks are lower. The Dow's down about 30 points. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News Radio.
Hey, Eric. Welcome back to After Hours AM. Glad you're back. Oh, wait a minute.
Well,
hey,
thanks,
everybody.
Joel.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen.
And Eric, man, you do a mean hula dance. That's why I heard that around the block. Just saying. I heard that.
Speaking of hula, you know what else I'm good at?
What is that?
We found about a 60, it predates me even, 60-year-old pogo stick.
Oh, no.
I'm not kidding. 60-year-old pogo stick in my parents' garage. And man, I was boinging on that like a screaming mofo. I was hopping up and down for an hour, a day, a week.
Eric, wow, man. I know a joke I'll tell you off air about pogo sticks. But hey, we should get to it. We got a great guest on tap, so let's talk about it. Let's introduce him, sir, if you will.
All righty then. Well, we are focusing on, though certainly not limited to, a classic book that he, our guest, has written called Paranormal Great Lakes. We're going to talk about other stuff, too, other books, including one he has coming out that sounds wondrous. But Paranormal Great Lakes is a rollicking A to Z listing of extraordinary, supernatural, paranormal, and inexplicable phenomena on the American Great Lakes, these 5 majestic freshwater seas. Lakes Superior, Huron, Erie, Michigan, and Ontario have hosted a treasure trove of fantastic sailors' tales, mysteries, and legends. Here abide the long-standing rumors, myths, and lore about mermaids, ghost ships, lake monsters, UFOs, USOs, vortices, and triangles, flying Dutchmen, wendigos, spook lights, haunted lighthouses, headless apparitions, and I'm going to make up a bunch of other names.
I would, just to fill it up a little bit.
Check that book out. It is great. It actually came out several years ago now, but it is a wondrous encyclopedic type listing. It's really fun to just open it up and go to town. You can sit on the pot. It is great toilet reading.
Wow.
It is wondrous. The author is Charles Cassady Jr. At a young and foolish age, Cleveland native Charles Cassady Jr. underwent a ritual apprenticeship as a disciple of dark forces to attain prestige and power. But something went wrong. Instead, he found himself a twisted outcast, banished by men, shunned by women, driven from those happy places of joy, love, warmth, and light, now sustained only by an unquenchable thirst for revenge. Charles Cassady dwells in shadow realms as a foul, malformed, and tortured wretch. That is my favorite bio of all time.
That is a great bio.
In other words,
my publisher refused to run that, so I just dumped it on my Amazon Author Central page.
And thank God you did.
Yeah.
It basically sums up what the punchline is in other words, I'm a typical failed journalism graduate.
Absolutely.
Tortured, malformed wretch looking for revenge.
Ink-stained. You didn't say ink-stained.
Ink-stained wretch, yes. Can't even get a job writing fake news to hurt Trump. It's
my
that
God.
lowest. But
All right,
paranormal writing opened its arms to me.
Thank God. Well, allow me to finish, because we got to tell them all the cool stuff about you. So he's written for a boatload of publications, local and otherwise. Most importantly, though, check out his books, Paranormal Great Lakes, Great Lakes Folklore, Cleveland Ghosts, Paranormal Mississippi River, and the forthcoming Crescent City Crimes. Welcome to the program, Charles Cassady Jr.
Oh, delighted to be here. And thank you for that wonderful reading again.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
Best
Thanks
in the business he is. Best in the business he is at reading those. Hey, Charles, you know, what's great is I'm sitting here near Duluth, Minnesota, of course, which I'm sure you're aware of because you only wrote about it, in Paranormal Great Lakes. I insist everyone check out Paranormal Great Lakes. Get a copy if you don't own a copy. It's pretty good reading. You're not gonna be disappointed at all. But yeah, a lot of lore in the Great Lakes, and recently a lot of our listeners, knowing that I'm pretty much sitting on the shores of Lake Superior, and a lot of the listeners are in this area as well, really have a deep interest in what they call the Great Lakes Triangle. If I had an email for every time someone asked me about the Great Lakes Triangle, I could probably buy a Big Mac. You know, if I had a nickel for every time. What is up, in your estimation, get this out of the way right away, with this darn tootin' Great Lakes Triangle?
I'm not much of I don't put much faith in the Bermuda Triangle, let's say. That was a big commercial venture by some publishers based on some wonderfully scary and wholly inaccurate stories printed in the 60s by Vincent Gaddis, and just became a bestseller. But it got people at least thinking about weird things that happen on the water, and whether they're localized or not. The great eccentric scientist Ivan Sanderson came up with a wonderful model that based on the Earth's rotation and gravity and wind streams, how you could have these vortices, vortex in plural, all dotted certain places around the world where it just sounds like matter, antimatter fields can be generated, and the UFOs can come in and ships can be teleported away. But I'll leave that for another show. The point is, the Great Lakes don't correspond to any of his so-called vortices. And several people have located spots on the Great Lakes where they say there's a large amount of paranormal activity. I list all the ones I could find, with the exception of the Lake Erie Quadrangle that came to my attention after the book came out. But there's the Marysville Vortex, the Lake Michigan Triangle. Almost none of these are actually triangle-shaped.
Yeah.
They're just areas where there seem to be high incidences of weirdness. And the Lake Erie Quadrangle, for that matter, pretty much lines up on Long Point, which is on the Canadian shore. That's a notorious snag for old ships, and in the age of sail, that's like a very, very shallow, treacherous area. So kind of naturally, ships would go down around that in great numbers, and it's a favorite wreck diving site.
Yeah, I know over here in Lake Superior now. Lake Superior, if I'm not mistaken, is the biggest of all the Great Lakes.
Yes.
Growing up, I heard tons of lore, everything from a place called Castle Danger to haunted lighthouses to ghost ships to events that took mass lives. I know the most famous one recently, of course, is the Edmund Fitzgerald. We talked a little bit off air about that, but full disclosure, I did have a cousin that passed away on the Edmund Fitzgerald, and he was serving in the maintenance department, and that's Thomas Borgeson, and he passed away, and everyone was lost on Edmund Fitzgerald. There was no survivors. Right. And now that one, I have heard a lot of, once they realized I had a relative on there, a lot of people say, I've heard that there's a ghost ship of that. Tell us about that a little bit quickly, about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Is there sightings of a ghost ship?
Someone claimed to Fate magazine, of all things, like letters to the editor, that they sighted the Edmund Fitzgerald on around Halloween 1980, coming into the port of Duluth, and that the bridge tenders actually raised the bridge for the ship. The individual, or the individual's girlfriend rather, later talked to the bridge tenders about it, and they said, the ship blew the right signals. I would think that by 1980 there were also radio communications and lots more documentation than just that. But supposedly the Edmund Fitzgerald came home that that one Halloween, but that's a one-off story. I've only heard there. Other people talk more about like impressions of the Edmund Fitzgerald. If there was a Coast Guard ship that was actually involved in the salvage or the search and rescue, supposedly every time they passed over the part of Lake Superior where the Fitzgerald lay, the ship's mascot dog just went crazy.
Okay.
And some of the ship's instruments, too, went awry. And there are even stories that UFOs were very active, not so much on Lake Superior, but closer to like Chicago and Lake Michigan that same night. And you can just take, it was a terrible snowstorm. You can take that for what it's worth. What the original story I have that was brought to my attention during a book appearance, a gentleman came up to me and said that I know that his mother-in-law pretty much blames herself for the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Really? What could she have done so horribly? Did she not break the champagne on the first swing or something?
Oh, that supposedly happened, when the Fitzgerald was being launched, the bottle of champagne failed to break, and that was supposedly a bad omen back then. Though she sailed without incident quite up until, the end. So, but I can get back to those superstitions later. They're fascinating all by themselves.
Yeah,
but this woman, the mother-in-law, she supposedly had two relatives on board that 29-man crew, I think cousins, and they permitted her a special tour of the decks the day before the ship set sail on the November 9th, 1975. And so she found herself in the position of having been the last person to walk on board the Edmund Fitzgerald and get off and survive. And later she heard, of course, among all the media and the Gordon Lightfoot song, Keeping the Story Alive.
Exactly, yeah.
She heard that it's bad luck to have a woman on your boat. And therefore she blamed herself. According to this gentleman telling me this story, she personally blamed herself for causing the curse that destroyed this mighty and beloved ore freighter. And when I put that story in my Great Lakes folklore, I added in the event that she ever would read it, that she really shouldn't feel that bad. The very first captain of the Edmund Fitzgerald frequently brought his wife and daughters on ships, on voyages with him, and nothing ever happened that was out of the ordinary. So she's probably not guilty of that curse.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you. I don't think that she had anything to do with it. I think it was bad weather. A lot of things went wrong with Edmund Fitzgerald to cause it to sink.
Fellas, it's been good to know you.
Yeah, exactly. It's been great. It's been wonderful to know you.
Yeah, as the song says or implies, setting sail on the Great Lakes in November, you're really taking a risk. No matter what the modern age or in the great old age of sail or the early steamships, that's really when the tragedies piled up. Some with ghost stories and curses arriving out of them, some not.
Well, what's the most common reported on all the Great Lakes ghost ship that people, see primarily?
Good question, because supposedly because a writer, a very serious historical writer named Dwight Boyer put this down in print. He said the most famous Great Lakes ghost ship was called the Bannockburn. I believe she vanished on Lake Superior in like 1901, but he just seemed to feel that that's the classic ghost ship. During a snowstorm, a captain of another ship looked away from her for one instant, looked back, she was gone, never seen again. And there's just the legend that, the Bannockburn is still seen to this very day, but you can't really find a police report about it. Now, on the other hand, there's this marvelous, sad, but a lot of legend attached to it, the Rouse Simmons, the Christmas tree ship of Chicago that sank, I think, around 1917, and again, making a dangerous late November run to deliver Christmas trees to the people of the Michigan coast, essentially, and Illinois. And the she obviously went down in a storm. Supposedly the Christmas trees were washing ashore in great numbers. It was a terrible reminder of all the hands died with her. That ship has supposedly been sighted on multiple occasions by more than one witness. So I think you could put maybe 3 confirmed sightings, and one person claimed to have seen the ship time and time again. She was a retired school teacher, and the author writing her testimony said, well, she seems sincere. So I give the award of the most cited ghost ship out there to the Rouse Simmons, just the one you could put a name to.
Well,
but there's lots and lots of folklore on the lakes about things like a phantom rum runner who blew up during Prohibition, who supposedly, when the engines overheated or the alcohol exploded while trying to get away from the Coast Guard. And supposedly you see this phantom rum runner still around the Lake Erie Islands, trying to speed between here and Canada. And the ghost ship, the ghost motorboat speeds past you, just raise your glass and toast, because they died in the call of duty. I've never met anyone personally or seen a confirmation in a police report, but you've got to love stories like that. There's an inshore ghost connected with the Great Lakes, Seaweed Charlie, they call him in Chicago. And you could do a whole show about Chicago Great Lakes tie-in ghost stories, but without trying to put an origin to him, because there are several, Seaweed Charlie supposedly got up out of the lake in the direction of roughly in Northwestern University and staggers across a highway to try to get into a cemetery, because he was died in the lake and wants to get in. And according to a few storytellers, hundreds and hundreds of people throughout the 50s and 60s would actually see Seaweed Charlie staggering across the road and just assumed it was a vagrant or maybe a jogger, earning Seaweed Charlie the distinction of being the single most seen ghost in all of human history, possibly during rush hour.
Obscene and not heard. Hey, Charles, I wanted to ask you, talking about all these ghost ships, I wanted to mention one of the things that's really great about the book is you make these events real in terms of the physicality of it. And so it doesn't really, you don't think about it that much, especially if you're not a, particularly nautical person yourself. I do actually come from a seafaring family, but I myself have never gone that way of life. But, it reminds you that there really are very, very important physical climate, weather events going on. And you were saying, even to this day, with modern technology and modern shipping and modern engines and the like, things still do happen, though not with the frequency of in the past. But when you see these terrible storms, I remember reading in one of your sections, one of the headings, that there was a storm where like 40 different ships went down. I mean, think about it. It's astonishing. And it's really interesting how you tie that in and again, make it real for me as a reader, that they are taking chances with those early winter, late fall, those November runs. But oftentimes it was really critical. They were things that people needed. And we forget, we really do get things from ships. Things cross the ocean in ships, and sometimes ships sink. So I wanted to commend you for that and just ask for your thoughts on it, about the actual, the reality of it. And I imagine you were reminded of it too, doing all this research.
Yes, indeed. In fact, when I got to my later book, Great Lakes Folklore, when I could bring in a lot of ship disaster stories that did not necessarily generate ghost tales, it seems like about 40% of them do, but I did like a top 10 countdown of the absolute worst losses of life, next to which, if you look at the numbers, Edmund Fitzgerald, 29 men died. They ring the bell 29 times every year for them. But there are catastrophes on the Great Lakes in the past that just dwarf that statistic. Possibly 834 people drowned in the Chicago River because of the Eastland capsizing. And that was in decent weather. That's that's just staggering. That happened, I think.
How did it
1915.
capsize, though? I mean, did something happen to cause that, or did it just go over?
That should have been people called the Eastland America's Forgotten Tragedy. It was really on the scale of the Titanic and the Sultana, just one of the worst maritime disasters ever. And what it was overcrowded pleasure boat taking off in trying to get started in July for a company picnic in the Indiana sand dunes. And whether you believe that it was a poorly constructed ship, which evidence seems to point to, or all the passengers ran to one side to get their picture taken by a photographer they saw on the shore, which is like a cover story that was floated for many years, the ship just half turned over, and it was so packed with far in excess of what the number of people it was supposed to carry that people just were held underneath and drowned in a very in the middle of Chicago, potential life-saving personnel all around. Just couldn't do anything.
Oh.
And they think that maybe 834 people died. Could have been higher.
My gosh, that's a huge body toll or death toll. Wow.
The morgues of Chicago were unable to handle those amount of dead. A lot of them were put into baskets and stored into what later became Oprah Winfrey Studios, Harpo Studios.
Really?
Which later developed a reputation. Even quite serious historians admit this. Very haunted. Oprah couldn't keep some people around there at night because of that.
I would imagine you have all these unsettled souls that passed away in a shipwreck. Yeah, I mean, that's a breeding ground for ghostly activity.
But you think Oprah could have taken her talk show into the Art Bell direction? Then
you would have thought so.
With tonight our guest is another one of the casualties. But
yeah, we are channeling tonight
the endless line of casualties.
Yes, tonight we're channeling a victim.
But I think her personal beliefs would not allow her to exploit some poor wretched ghost like that.
Yeah.
Remember, she got scared by Interview with a Vampire terribly.
Yeah, that is very true. We were just talking about that top of the last hour, Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
But exactly. Now, Charles, in your estimation, which one of these lakes, and they're all majestic and huge and violent in their own way, which one is the most deadly of all these lakes?
Well, another good question, because statistically, Lake Michigan has the worst death toll, but really because of the Eastland capsizing, which, by the way, is given as one of the origins of Seaweed Charlie, but not the only one. There's the Eastland disaster and also a case in 1860 when two ships collided, the Augusta and the Lady Elgin, on Lake Michigan. And that created like 300 possible casualties, especially on the Lady Elgin. It was another pleasure boat that happened to be rammed by a working schooner just carrying like a cargo of wood or something like that. The Augusta rammed right into it, created like a Titanic type wound in the ship below the waterline that she was just doomed. Yeah. The Augusta survived quite intact, but the Lady Elgin went right to the bottom, and quite a number of people were killed, especially the word went that instantly created 1,000 orphans in the Milwaukee and Chicago area, because a lot of the families on board were of parents of Irish descent, and they had huge families, and suddenly both parents are gone. So the combination of the 1-2 punch of the Augusta and Lady Elgin statistics and the Eastland, plus a few others, make Lake Michigan the worst for body counts. But you mentioned Lake Superior. Lake Superior has phenomenon on it that only you'll otherwise find on the oceans in terms of dangerous waves, just like really nautical sailing conditions that are quite hazardous and just a science unto themselves.
Yeah, really, the Great Lakes are inland oceans, is what they really are. They create, like, our weather here, where I am, is wholeheartedly predicted and manufactured a lot of times by Lake Superior. It makes its own weather systems.
Yes,
and so we're victims to that sometimes.
Right, and each lake has a different character, a different profile. Lake Erie is the shallowest by far, which you might think would mean it's the safest.
Yeah.
But in fact, that leads to, so our meteorologists tell us, a really volatile surface, or sudden squalls can brew up and strike, and then water spouts, and so that's the one thing. Lake Superior, because of its depth, you grew up hearing about this three sisters, said to be possibly the villains in the end of the Edmund Fitzgerald, just a wave phenomenon where just three major monster waves hit a ship, one after another, the third one, the last one being the biggest, and the first two swamped the ship. The third one, that's the one that sends the ship down. Blow. Yeah. And that's supposedly a unique phenomenon to Lake Superior that I'm not sure has ever been quite scientifically proven.
Not that I'm aware of. I know I've done extensive research on Lake Superior just because it's always interested me, much like you. And I also have my own UFO story on Lake Superior later on. I'll tell you.
Share that, please. That's another book down the line.
I've actually spent a lot of time in that water because I fish lake trout. And so I have downriggers and do this and do that. So I've been in that deep water, and it is really kind of eerie. I like to see shore. I don't like to get too far out. I like to still see shore. We got to run a break, everyone. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Charlie Cassady. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're going to talk, haunted lighthouses, UFOs, all that fun stuff to come. So you're going to want to hear that. Hey, you're listening to After Hours AM, and if you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you like us, follow us, review us, tell your friends about us, tell grandma about us, and keep listening.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If pop culture is to be believed, roughly 40% of all people are actually vampires, or dating one. Well, undead or not, you can always save on a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6, even if you sleep during the day because direct sunlight turns you into a pile of sparkly coffee grounds. Speaking of which, we have free coffee every morning. You day sleepers may want to go for the decaf. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
You're listening to After Hours AM. Do you have a question for the guest or even the host? That's really easy. Go ahead and email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Are you feeling like picking up the phone and being part of the show? Call us at 612-326-6874, 612-326-6874. Come be part of the madness.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. It's your real precious to get the hose.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen.
And we are talking to Charles Cassady tonight, and he wrote one of the greatest Great Lakes books I have ever read, Paranormal Great Lakes. And when we're leaving, we're talking about getting into UFOs, and Charles, let's go Charles. See, now ever since we talked about that swamp, that Charlie guy, I want to call you Charlie, so I'll get away from that. Charles, tell us the tale on Lake Superior of the UFO.
Well, there are quite a number of UFO stories and underwater USO stories you hear about the Great Lakes, but the one that stuck out in my mind and sort of gained traction in recent years is known in the business as the Kinross incident. This was in November. Again, even though it's an aerial thing, it's in that deadly month of November. November 23rd, 1953, there was American fighter jet, a Scorpion Interceptor, or those of you who know your fighter jets, was being scrambled on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to investigate a radar contact of unknown origin. You know, the classic UFO bogey, whatever. And supposedly on the radar screen, the much told part of the story went, the people on the ground could see the radar blip from the interceptor coming to reach the radar blip of the UFO, and they seemed to merge, giving the impression that the bogey blip had actually swallowed the plane, and then both vanished completely. And that story has been knocking around in the background of the UFO subculture for quite some time. What came up in recent years, some mysterious group claiming to be a Great Lakes salvage operation said that with using a new form of sonar sideband radar, they'd scanned the bottom of Lake Superior, where roughly this incident happened, and found in separate areas a unmistakable downed interceptor plane, and next to it a disc-shaped object with a big dent in it.
And they did they pull it out? I mean, I don't ever remember them pulling these things out of Lake Superior.
No, they wanted to evidently raise money for, if not salvage operations, and Lake Superior being the deepest lake, that's very, very hard. That's like the abyss down there. Or at least making a documentary about this thing.
Gotcha.
And once my litmus test for a lot of paranormal phenomenon is once people start asking for money, then the antenna goes slightly up, and someone did some homework and found that this Great Lakes diving operation, whatever name they were incorporated under, they didn't seem to have much of a business record. Their website presence was traced to some guy far, far from the Great Lakes. And the sideband sonar images supposedly floated as depicting these two objects kind of look like very heavily retouched and crude digital pictures. Even UFO believers kind of couldn't believe that the interceptor aircraft was so obviously intact, even if it had a mid-air collision with something that brought it down to the bottom of the lake. You know, you would think quite a bit of a debris field or wreckage. And so after people started raising questions, basically the people making the claims of having found these objects, they just disappeared, went off the radar. You'll occasionally hear on George Norrie especially, someone will bring this up and talk about maybe a cover-up or something like that. But it also sounds like it could have been an early internet media hoax just as much. Yeah. The actual 1953 incident, Kinross incident with the radar contacts, yes, that's verifiable. That happened, not fake news. There's just the official Air Force explanation that it was a Canadian airliner that they detected as the bogey. It had strayed off course, and that the interceptor plane, that was just a poorly manufactured plane, and they tended to drop out of the skies in great numbers.
Oh, geez, that's a great feeling.
So it was just an unfortunate confluence of events that looked like a UFO on radar had swallowed one of our planes.
Well, years ago, though, I got an email from a Preston Miller that claimed to be the owner and operator of Great Lakes Dive Company, which was the company that created the hoax. I did interview this Preston Miller pressed Preston on the fact that if there is something there, you should alert the Coast Guard, let them deal with it. Why are they not dealing with it? Because it involves a piece of United States military hardware that is up to them to do salvage operations. You cannot go dig up a modern aircraft that was once owned at that moment by the Air Force. Can't do it. It's illegal. Once that was brought up, he disappeared. He went off the radar, like what he did with everybody else. They had a website that initially presented 2 images claiming that, to be the Discovery, and they were real grainy. I could never get a straight answer out of Preston Miller. I'm assuming that's his real name. I'm sure it isn't, because it was a very, very strange situation. Living here by the Great Lakes, by Superior, he wanted me to be kind of get more involved in it and kind of, hey, let's get this thing drug up, bring it up. And when I did contact the Duluth Air National Guard about it, they gave me the standard, well, we really can't talk about it because that's classified information. A lot of things they gave me, a lot of static. But they did say he's full of bunk. This is not real. The incident, like you had said, did happen, but them finding it in Lake Superior did not.
Okay. And yet I suspect the legends may kick around for some time, and I can just set down our findings in print and hope that in the end everyone gets all sides of it.
Yeah, I asked the commanding officer of the Air National Guard in Duluth why he was so adamant that they would not find a plane. He said because the rate of speed of the crash would have shattered that aircraft. It would have been like hitting a cement wall when it hit the water. So you would be finding little bits of debris, but you would never find an intact fuselage like they were claiming they found.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of, you brought up earlier, the whole allegation of triangles, Great Lakes triangles, especially as regards aircraft that just tend to mysteriously vanish over the Great Lakes. Well, if they hit the water, if something went wrong in the flight and they hit the water at a speed as you described, yes, they would literally vanish. Not UFOs, just unfortunately physics. They disintegrate. The particles almost too small to be a recognizable debris field.
Yeah, the commander gave me a great discussion. We talked for quite a bit. He was just telling me, when you hit the water, it's like hitting cement at that speed. So it's going to react just like it's hitting a mountain, essentially. Because the water is not going to give right away. There's that tensile strength that it has to get through. And that would disintegrate that plane. And especially that plane was kind of a flimsy aircraft. It was not built the greatest. And there was a lot of things that we talked about. Yeah, but very cool. And that still today, though, I get that same people ask me about it, like much like George Norrie. They'll bring it up. Well, what do you think about that? And I said, it was a hoax, folks. It was a hoax. It in my estimation, it's a great story, and yes, there are reports of this incident happening, but do I believe that these people found the wreckage? Absolutely not. If that were true, it's like the government told me, if that were true, they would be all over it like a bloodhound.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
other Lake Erie Great Lakes wreck diver, Mike Fletcher, inferred to me that when it comes to wreck diving, even not necessarily in the paranormal realm, there's just lots of obsessed folks and bizarre claims made. I needed his input for, and this is true, not paranormal, but practically out of something out of the Wild Wild West. There was a gentleman building and testing submarines, salvaged the machines and warships on the Great Lakes before the Civil War. Before Captain Nemo and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I did not know that. That's a new one on me.
That story is told in full as I could tell it in Great Lakes folklore. Laudner Phillips was his name. We don't know how many ships he actually built and tested. He impressed a few people with the U.S. Navy, not enough of them at the time, but it is known that one of his submarines was used in a salvage attempt on Lake Erie at the 100-foot depth on the Canadian side, probably the deepest Lake Erie ever gets. It was lost during the attempt. It flooded. Laudner, fortunately, and his crewmen escaped, but the wooden submarine went straight to the bottom, and as far as anyone can tell, it's probably still there, just buried under tons of silt, according to my informant, Mr. Fletcher. And considering that it's almost entirely made out of wood, probably, though well preserved, virtually impossible to detect with instruments that are used often by wreck divers to sound out, hulls and brass.
Yeah.
So very tantalizing, amazing story I have in there. They seem to have pulled a few other, or at least one other Laudner Phillips submarine out of the Chicago River in 1915. And the pictures you see online about it are just incredible. Looks like a spaceship being recovered out of the Chicago River. But my point is that Mike Fletcher spoke to me for about 2 hours on the phone before he was convinced that I was, quote, not a nut, and he could tell me what he'd thought about the lost submarine in Lake Erie and expected it would show up in print in a reasonable tone and attitude. And since I sent my book to him, I did not get any feedback from him, so maybe, in fact, I am a nut.
Well, either that or no news is good news.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be that, too. Now, USOs, they are frequently cited as being in the Great Lakes. That is something that's new on me. I've heard some talkings, but which lake... How many have been seen, and which lakes does it seem that the USOs like to come out of?
The gentleman I mentioned before named Ivan T. Sanderson, he sort of coined the term USOs, or unidentified swimming object or unidentified submarine object.
Sure.
And he made a statement in his classic book on the phenomenon called Invisible Residence that Lake Erie was Grand Central Station for these things. But he just made that statement. He didn't back it up with any reports.
Yeah, just threw it out there and left it there.
So there's a gentleman named Carl Feint who has continued had a great website enumerating underwater UFO encounters or UFOs appearing to rise out of the water on a worldwide basis, and his opinion was that the Great Lakes don't have any more or any less of that going on. It's just for whatever to the USOs, it's just another body of water to go through wherever they're seeking to go. And someone did tell me a very fun story that I just could not substantiate enough to include in my books, but he said it was a joke around the flight school he attended that some aircraft went down in Lake Erie once and is still seen as a ghost plane, but under the water.
That would be a sight to behold.
That would, and I wish I had found anything else in the literature, anything outside of this guy's flight school class that maintained that rumor. I'd like to pull from, if I don't have a really solid, and he said he didn't see this himself, of course. It was just the talk around the classroom. And I don't want to muddy the waters worse than they already are with paranormal claims. I did not include that story just because I couldn't back it up with any supporting traditions. Maybe someone will come up with something.
You just never know. One of our listeners might pipe up and go, "Hey, wait a minute, my grandpa told me all about that," or something. Where they got more info. Now, it wouldn't be a Great Lakes show without talking a little bit about lighthouses, because they play such an important role on the Great Lakes for navigation and safety, all sorts of things. There's a few haunted ones out there, isn't there? There's a few haunted ones.
In fact, a passage in my book that I had to make this statement because I'm not the only one. I love haunted lighthouse stories. and some of them do seem to have some compelling substance behind them. Yet at the same time, there's this little asterisk that it's stated that if you've got a lighthouse and you're a historical society, and you really want to see the donations keep coming in from the public and the tourists, you might want to play up the ghost stories as much as possible. And if there are no ghost stories, try to get one.
Invent one. Yes, in fact, our Split Rock lighthouse here near me is allegedly haunted. So you're right. They got it.
It may well be a lot of solitude. No shortage of tragedies associated with some lighthouses. So there may well be the paranormal phenomenon involved. But there's also the donation box right outside, and if the guides love telling the stories and they open it up on Halloween with that theme night, well, there's one could impute a motive to that. Of course, pure-hearted and maintaining the historic old lighthouse, but you never know.
Hey, Charles, one of the great things about the book is that you really cover that broad range of paranormal activity. I wanted to get real quick, because it's hard to believe we only have 10 minutes left on the show. I'd love to hear your favorite ghost story, your favorite cryptid story. You've already given us a great UFO story, but just love to hear your favorites in kind of the various categories, and then maybe like a monster too, whatever you could get to in that short period of time. Love to hear the tales.
Okay, favorite monster story. Well, we've got the Lake Erie monster here, probably the most famous of the many Great Lakes monsters that have been named, probably because there's a hockey team now that capitalized on the image. Okay, I spoke to an eyewitness. A young man, now a musician, I do believe, but he and his family and relatives were just at a Ohio beach, a well-known one, Huntington Beach, at sunset in the early 90s, and they saw like 20 to 50 feet of a ridged Godzilla-like back coming out of the water and standing there. He said it looked at first like a standing wave, but then it just didn't go away. And it had ridged serrations on it, then finally subsided. And the creepy thing was, it was in the waters within the roped-off area where people could swim if they chose.
Oh, man.
It just happened to be around 7 at night, so hopefully there weren't many bathers in at that time. So my informant said he saw this, the other people saw this. No one seemed to get a picture, unfortunately, but
they never do.
It was in the early 90s. We didn't have cameras in our phones yet. He looked through all kinds of books on wildlife and came to the decision that it was a sturgeon fish, but a monster sturgeon fish. I mean, those in the Great Lakes, I think the longest ever measured was 12 feet. Where you could get a hold of where you could find a 50-foot sturgeon fish swimming around in Lake Erie, that's good enough of a cryptid for me. And so
they're big, though.
That.
I have caught 6-foot sturgeons before, and it is a fight.
Yes, and they look ancient. They are ancient. That would, be a creepy enough apparition for me if I saw a 50-footer. That can be conceivable.
Yeah, I remember seeing photos of when I was a boy of sturgeon, especially from Lake Erie, as big as the boats they were fishing on.
Okay.
I mean, just pictures of these monsters of the deep. And I don't know if it was early Photoshop or what it was, but man, it scared the hell out of me enough to not want to go to Lake Erie.
Okay. All right. Yeah, works for me though. Same for him. His family didn't want to go in the water much after that either. And ghost stories. Oh, don't know how to choose. But you talked about lighthouses. There's a lighthouse on Lake Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Ontonagon, that I really like the imagery associated with it. It had a lightkeeper named Thomas Stripe, who just sounds like a very larger-than-life character. He was missing an arm, blown off in a Independence Day fireworks celebration, but he supposedly still could outfight and outdrink anyone in town. And once during a severe town epidemic, he single-handedly saved the town. He did like a Balto-type thing by bringing supplies in the winter, all with just one arm. They say the Ontonagon Lighthouse is still haunted by Mr. Stripe, and you can hear him walking up the winding spiral staircase, toting the old oil drum to light the lantern, and you know it's Thomas Stripe because like every third step or something like that, he stops and puts the oil can down with a clang because he's only got one arm, so that tires him out, even dead.
I feel like I've been doing this work
only
forever.
got one arm.
Yeah, one-armed man. It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
And I like the story too. Another Lake Michigan story about Minnie Quay. If you just go online, you can even Google the Quay House and Minnie Quay, Quay. You can see like she's got a grave that lovelorn teenagers visit and leave trinkets to. She supposedly was in love with a sailor. Family disapproved of it, so Minnie Quay drowned herself in Lake Michigan off the pier, and allegedly so her house is haunted. And even to this day, it's said that her ghost appears in the water, beckoning other young lovers to follow her into the briny deep. And
wow.
The creepy thing is that there is a grave for Minnie Quay, and it does appear that she died when she was a teenager, and there may be a grain of truth to that part of the story. Whether she indeed entices people to commit suicide in the lake, I cannot say, but there's stories told.
Yeah,
and that's just such a romantic thing, and to behold her actual grave site with offerings left, just something awfully sweet and haunting about that.
Have you ever seen anything strange for yourself in the Great Lakes?
No, I'm a very boring person, really.
Yeah,
that's why I had to really.
That's okay though.
Biography.
That's
disciple of dark forces, but even the dark forces didn't want to have much to do with me.
I actually, yours truly here saw a UFO in Lake Superior.
Oh, please tell me. That'll be in my next book.
It was the weirdest sighting. We were at a place called Ficker's Brew House. And it's a micro tap, they have craft beers, And so we went down to the lake walk, it's called. And that's the area where everyone walks along the lake and da-da-da-da. And we were standing there, and we watched this object that was really weird lit. It was like a pale pink, and it turned into this, just different colors. And it came flying in super fast, like really like... I thought maybe it was one of the Air National Guard's planes, and they just, had weird lights, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't up on my marker lights at that point. It came in, and it dead stopped, because it just dead stopped out of nowhere. Just full 100% stop, going from probably 400 or 500 miles an hour to nothing. It stopped for about, I'd say, 2 or 3 seconds, and did a full, just whoop, right to the sky, gone. Just gone. It was a really weird moment because it was also very eerily quiet on the lake when that thing appeared. And I remember my buddy telling me, he says, I wonder if it knows that we see it. And it was almost like it stopped as soon as he said that. Like, yeah, we know, and we don't care. It took off.
That has been noticed, and so there's more than one witness. That's interesting too.
Yeah, we thought it was one too many beers, but then other people said, "Did you see that thing over the lake last night by the lift bridge?" Yeah, that was that's really.
And
weird.
How late at night was this?
This was probably about 11 o'clock at night or so. I mean, it was
so thorough darkness.
Yeah, it was pretty dark out, and really we saw it, and there was no ships coming in. It was pretty quiet night. Everything was pretty much shut down. There was no air traffic at that point. And it just, one of those quiet, still nights, summer nights. And this was about June-ish, July-ish, late June, early July. This thing comes in about Mach 4. Charles, I'm telling you, man, I've never seen anything move that fast that wasn't a jet. But then to stop out of nowhere, just stop. Dead stop and hover,
and nobody launching their Chinese kung fu movie.
No, that was the first thing I thought too. That was the
that.
first thing I thought too. So I got a hold of a friend of mine that happened to work at the Air National Guard, and I said, "Hey, was there anything weird in the skies last night?" And of course, he says, "Well, nothing I can talk about." So there wasn't any Chinese lanterns going up or any. Nope, nothing. It was a quiet airspace night, as he put it. Kind of a wink and a nod, though, at the end. Like, yeah. But, yeah, I investigated. There was nothing going on. There was nothing in the airspace. that was the only thing there, and we must have watched it for about 30, 40 seconds, and then took off. But, man, Charles, I could stay here and talk to you all night about these stories because, man, there's so many of them, but we're at the end of the show. And you got to tell them how they can get a hold of you, how they can get all the great books you've written, all that kind of good stuff.
My publisher, Schiffer Books, it's Schiffer Publishing, but www.schifferbooks, SCHIFFERBOOKS.com. And, of course, I'm carried on Amazon and all other BarnesandNoble.com, all the other fine websites. And I don't take offense if you want to order them through your library system first, interlibrary loan if necessary, just to test the waters, as it were. But I think you'll enjoy them.
I do too. Charles Cassady, everybody. Pick up the books. They're really, really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying Paranormal Great Lakes right now, and I will finish this tomorrow because I just got to keep going. But until then, everyone take care of each other, love each other, and look to the skies and look in the waters. You just might see a ghost ship. Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.